very good evening to you. Many thanks for joining us tonight on the broadcast. It is the second day of June 2025, exactly the middle month of the year. So if you're having plans, it's time to rethink of whether you're changing your plans or you are pursuing them still. Better still, this is KUTV Primetime News, and we are up to date with everything that is shaping your world of news. And before we get into that, let's get an introduction.
This is KUTV Primetime News with Anyango, Sylvia.
That's right. On the sign language interpretation tonight is Margaret Migwi. Remember, KUTV News at 9 is also coming to you live on YouTube at KUTV News Kenya, and you can also engage with us on X at KUTV_Kenya at Anyango Sylvia KE. We begin. Now, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and his Ugandan counterpart, that is Agatha Atuhaire, have revealed the suffering and torment they claim to have experienced at the hands of a police officer in Tanzania. The two were found a few weeks ago at the border of Tanzania and their respective countries in poor health conditions. They all allege they were sexually abused along with other forms of torture. Activist groups in the continent are now calling on the United Nations to impose international sanctions on the presidents of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania.
They had promised to tell the ordeal they claim to have gone through while in the custody of the Tanzanian police officers, and today they narrated what they said happened to them in the land of Mama Samia Suluhu. It was a story full of tears. Kenyan activists Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire from Uganda, who were detained by the Tanzanian police officers while they were attending the controversial treason case of opposition leader of the Chadema party Tundu Lissu, described how their journey, which according to them was to show solidarity with Lissu, turned into a nightmare of torture and suffering. The two claimed that they were sexually assaulted during the ordeal.
Kamoto. Some guy put lubricant in my rectum, in my anus, and then started inserting objects. They insert objects and pull it.
And I felt like I was suffocating. It was as if they have covered my nose, my mouth, and I couldn't breathe. I'd never been blindfolded my whole life. What's funny is that I thought that they would come. I knew that they would come. I just didn't know it would come in Tanzania.
Various activists across Africa have condemned the atrocities that the two, who were still recovering from injuries they claim to have sustained in Tanzania before being returned to their home countries, experienced.
Atrocities are not isolated incidents. They are deliberate and coordinated strategy used by East Africa's autocrats, William Ruto, Samia Suluhu Hassan, and Yoweri Museveni, in desperate, unconstitutional, and increasingly violent and terroristic bids to cling to power.
Activist groups across the continent are now calling on the United Nations and other international organizations to impose international sanctions on the East African presidents who are perpetuating the oppression of activists, while also demanding a thorough investigation into the torture experienced by Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire. Blue Smile Hassan, KUTV.
Leaders across the country are urging government to ensure public participation in the passage of the Finance Bill 2025-2026, set to take effect on July 1st. They emphasize that engaging citizens in the process will prevent misunderstandings and opposition like those witnessed during the passage of the 2024 Finance Bill.
Finance Bill 2025-2026 undergoes public participation before parliamentary debate and enactment. Citizens are encouraged to review the bill and contribute their suggestions. The National Treasury notes that the bill includes major amendments aimed at closing tax loopholes and improving efficiency. The Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly led by Molo MP Kuria Kimani, has especially invited Kenyan youths to participate by submitting feedback digitally, removing the need for physical attendance. The Finance Bill 2025, tabled in Parliament on April 30th, proposes changes to several tax laws, including the Income Tax Act, the Value Added Tax Act, and the Excise Duty Act. 12 counties like Laikipia, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi, Makueni, Migori, Nyeri, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, Wajir, Samburu, and Kwale have been identified for public participation exercise, whose input will help shape the bill ahead of the 4.24 trillion budget presentation in June. This follows the rejection of the 2024 Finance Bill, which saw large public opposition and widespread unrest and casualties due to the turmoil surrounding the bill. Meanwhile, Machakos Deputy Governor Francis Mwangangi has emphasized the need for citizen involvement in the 2025-2026 Finance Bill process to prevent misunderstandings and division. He cautioned that rushing the bill without adequate public consultation could lead to instability.
2025 Finance Bill. I think we need a national conversation. Watu ni vizuri tuzungumze. Kwa sababu tukianzana hivyo, watu wengine huko Mombasa wataanza hivyo, wengine huko Nyanza, wengine mahali wengine watasema tunakataa. Unakataa nini? Kwanza tusome ile utaki, kuna public participation, tuingie kule.
Rajab Juma, KUTV.
Researchers warn that the financial crisis gripping many local universities is undermining research and innovation efforts, with institutions struggling to fund projects to completion. Speaking during an innovation forum at Zitech University that brought together research stakeholders from across the country, the African Population and Health Research Center Executive Director Dr. Catherine Kyobutungi called for collective efforts to revive research hubs in the country. Stephen Marsha with more details.
Speaking during a stakeholders forum, the African Population and Health Research Center Executive Director Dr. Catherine Kyobutungi said most universities have been forced to prioritize basic education delivery at the expense of research and innovation due to financial constraints. Kyobutungi called for urgent partnership between universities, the government and the private sector to safeguard the future of innovation in Kenya. She decried the low investment in research by most African governments, which currently stands at an average of 0.45% of their GDP.
I think I would call upon government to increase the 0.45 or the 0.6. The AU target is 1%, and there are other targets which are 2% of GDP. So if government would invest more into these innovations, at least move them from the innovation stage to the innovation stage and the use stage. So that is one stakeholder. But then the other one is private sector. That the recognition that there's a lot of talent, not just in this university, but in this country. Young people that are really, really highly talented.
Anthony Mudungu, one of the innovators who developed a durable charging cable using the Zitech Innovation Hub, said that lack of recognition and financial support are major barriers for young innovators.
And also we also struggle now from the high cost of electricity, which is also becoming, because most of our production requires a very heavy production machineries, and also heavy taxation. The government can assist us in what we are doing by probably linking us with other institutions that are locally producing other electronic devices that requires these chargers that we are producing. Like you can also, like other companies that are locally assembling mobile phones that requires the devices that we are using.
Zitech University Deputy Vice Chancellor Professor Alice Njuguna called on innovators across the country to make use of available resources, noting that the institution provides mentorship, funding and international exposure to students with promising innovations.
Industry and the university are two sides of the same coin, right? So we would want to encourage the government to encourage investors to invest in the universities, because that's where the brains are, and also the universities to come up with market-relevant products, because again, what you come up with has to be bought by the market. A number of students are doing a lot of robotics and looking at climate change. Like for example, you have an innovation by our students who are collecting carbon credits, who are assisting for collecting carbon credits, so that we can be able to report at the global level, as you heard from the Vice Chancellor's speech.
The stakeholders unanimously called for stronger collaboration between institutions of higher learning, government agencies and the private sector to revive the innovation ecosystem and secure the country's future research and development. They emphasize that without deliberate investment and inclusive policies, Kenya risks losing a generation of talented innovators whose ideas could drive economic growth, job creation, and technological advancement. Stephen Maisha, KUTV, Nairobi.
Still on matters education, Garissa Township Member of Parliament Diko Mohammed has urged the Ministry of Education to make proper preparations for students transfer from grade 9 to grade 10 next year in order to avoid misunderstanding among both parents and students. Senior schools, which include grade 10 through 12, will officially commence January 2026, marking the start of the Pioneer Grade 9 cohort. Speaking at an NGCDF bursary issuing conference in Garissa, the Member of Parliament warned the government against making last-minute preparations that could jeopardize the implementation of CBC. However, in response, Garissa Township Sub-County Director of Education Rashid Mukhtar confirmed that the government has made all required preparations, including curriculum creation and teacher retooling.
The national government, Ministry of Education, iwajibike. We don't want always to have haphazard ways of implementing government programs. This program of CBC and CBE was there for the last 7 or so years. But now we understand that nothing is in place for transition from junior secondary school to senior secondary school. So we are asking the minister or the CS in charge of this program to ensure that we do not have confusion during this transition.
KICD also has prepared the materials and the textbooks for grade 10. Schools will receive, I think, somewhere by August around there. So there we are very much ready. Learners who are currently in grade 9 in our junior schools, placement for senior school has already kicked off on 26th of May this year.
Now, Embu Governor Cecil Mbarire has issued a strong warning to unnamed individuals within the United Democratic Alliance, that is UDA party, and government officials who are trying to sabotage her leadership. Speaking in Bere South, she claimed that secret meetings were being held to plot her downfall and that she would expose them if this norm persisted. Her comments came shortly after the Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki's surprise visit to Embu. Additionally, Mbarire defended Muguka trade, stating that it's legally recognized and vital to Embu's economy. She criticized recent county-level bans, calling them unlawful, and urged for consistent national policies to protect farmers and traders in miraa value chain.
Mimi mnajua mimi ni chairperson wa UDA party. Na kama kuna mtu amepigwa juu ya kusupport serikali ni mimi Kalinda. Dipendwa kabila lakini tendira ngaia iko. Lakini nimeanza kuona kuna watu wameanza kunipangia njama. Na ni watu wako kwa serikali ile mimi napigania kila siku.
On that note, we are taking the very first break on the broadcast tonight. Stay with us.
Baada ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu wengi walio wana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili
bila uoga. Watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi, hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
healthy, or rather, do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? According to WHO, health is regarded as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Welcome to Focus on Health, a show on all matters health, wellness, and lifestyle. On this show, we cover a wide variety of topics inclusive of, but not limited to, dental, optical, mental, reproductive health, and so much more. Join me, Joy Bofenda, every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on KUTV for compelling insights and discussions on all matters health. See you then.
Focus on Health, your weekly dose of health and wealth information on KUTV.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Anyango, Sylvia.
Welcome back. Now this is KUTV News at 9. Let's keep informing you where Tharaka Nithi Governor and Chairperson of the Council of Governors Health Committee, Muthoni Njuki, has expressed support for the Ministry of Health's proposal to shift universal health coverage staff to counties, but has requested a head count. According to Governor Njuki, there is a possibility of approximately 3,000 ghost workers within the UHC workforce, with the centralized payment of staff at the Ministry of Health contributing significantly to the disparities observed. Governor Njuki said that millions of taxpayers' money was being lost due to the payment of ghost UHC staff, and that a head count would be the only way to get the true facts.
Katika Tharaka Nithi tuko na 219 of them. As we talk today, in Tharaka Nithi, sidhani hata kuna yote ako kwa kazi, because they went on strike kwa sababu waliandikwa, interview ilifanywa hapa katika county, na si Tharaka Nithi peke yake, katika Kenya mzima hizi ndio tulifanya interview. Lakini pero ile inawalipa na pale wanalipwa na serikali kuu. Hiyo ni system ambayo haiwezi fanya kazi. Ati kwamba yule alikufanyia interview na pale unafanya kazi ni county government, lakini mshahara inatoka national. Na kabla yule wa national akulipe, aangaliangi ama ajui kama wewe uko kazi ama yuko kazi. And we have discovered one thing, Bwana County Commissioner. The government of Kenya is losing taxpayers' money by paying ghost UHC workers who cannot be accounted for.
And Kilifi County leaders have demanded respect for their governor, that is Gideon Mung'aro, from political critics in the region. Speaking during an event held at Ganze Boys grounds, they highlighted that some opponents to the governor are crossing the lane of respect.
The Ganze Boys High School grounds turned into a political arena when Governor Mung'aro allies warned those who they termed as disrespectful opposition. Led by the members of Parliament for Kaloleni Paul Katana, Ganze Kenneth Tungule and Kilifi Woman Representative Mbegu Mwanyanje, they have called out those disrespecting the governor that they will not be tolerated within the county.
Gavana yuko na mamlaka makubwa sana. Na leo mimi nimesema sitasema mambo mengi. Nataka gavana heshimiwe. Waganze mupo? Waganze mupo? Nataka gavana Gideon Maitha Mung'aro aheshimiwe na viongozi wote. Kama kiongozi atatokelezea akejeli gavana, atukane gavana, mimi Mbeyu sitakubali.
The leaders blamed opponents for the rift in the county assembly, forcing some MCAs to attack the county boss.
Ile ambayo mimi naomba ndugu zangu madiwani wa Kilifi, viongozi wenzangu, nyinyi mlichaguliwa pamoja na gavana. Shikaneni na gavana, mfanye kazi na gavana ili muweze kupanga miradi katika maeneo yenu ili wananchi hawa waweze kupata faida ya
Kaloleni Member of Parliament Paul Katana said Kilifi will not be ruled by negative politics. Katana urged leaders to shun away from 2027 politics.
Tusikubali kugawanywa na watu ambao hawako mamlaka. Sisi kama viongozi tutasimama pamoja na gavana umalize kipindi chako.
Mbeyu Mwanyanje, the Kilifi County Women Representative, echoed the same, calling out some MCAs from Kilifi to refrain from being used by political opponents to the governor, adding that Kilifi members of National Assembly were all behind the governor to achieve his tenure. The host of the event, Ganze Member of Parliament Kenneth Tungule, urged the governor to unite all leaders from Kilifi, saying it was the only way to peace and prosperity of the county. He further affirmed his allegiance to the governor, saying he had performed tremendously in his 2.5 years of governance in Kilifi.
Mimi kama mbunge nimesema nitafanya kazi na wewe na nitakuunga mkono kuhakikisha kwamba malengo yako yanatimia. Mheshimiwa Gavana, nataka nikwambie usikuwe na wasiwasi. Kama vile tumeongea pale katika mkutano, hivyo ndivyo itafanyika. Mimi sina shaka kabisa kuwa hawa wakazi wa Ganze watakuregesha katika kipindi cha pili.
The leaders now call upon the Kilifi administration to carry out development plans to Kilifi residents without the political rift.
Now, Malindi Deputy County Commissioner, DCC David Lusava, has issued a stern warning to parents of juvenile offenders in the sub-county, saying they could face arrest and prosecution for neglecting their parental duties. Lusava condemned the rise of machete and knife-wielding gangs over young criminals and blamed poor parenting for the menace.
Deputy County Commissioner David Lusava took a hard stance on juvenile criminal parents, criticizing the current parental neglect that has proved to be on the rise.
Kumezungumzwa mambo ya vikundi vya mawoza. Hatutarajii kuona hawa watu tena. Wazazi tuchukue jukumu la kuangalia watoto wetu wanafanya nini. Sasa tukipata mtoto wako ni woza, hata wewe mzazi tutakufuata, tutawafuata, tuulize ulikuwa wapi. We will even arrest the parents who are wala watoto hawa, because tumekuwa tukiimba kila wakati.
The commissioner said this following the DCC read the riot act to chiefs, assistant chiefs and village elders who failed to contain juvenile criminals in their areas of jurisdiction. Machete and knife-wielding gangs of young criminals as young as 10 years old, known as Mawoza, have sprouted in various parts of Malindi and its environs, instilling fear among residents and overwhelming the security agencies.
Wazee wetu wa vijiji, serikali hivi karibuni tutafanya rollout ya kuanza hiyo village administration, ambapo sasa serikali imewatambua rasmi, utakuwa part of the administrative structure. Na hatutafanya kazi na wewe kama wewe ni mzee wa kijiji, kwako ndio kuna mambo mabaya, watoto wako ndio wale wanakata watu na mapanga, watoto wako ndio wanafanya mambo yote maovu. We will not entertain you.
The administrator also warned against the killing of innocent elders on suspicion of witchcraft practice and the invasion of private and public land. He warned that perpetrators will face the law. Malindi Sub-County Administrator Dadu Chome said the county government of Kilifi was in the process of developing a new law to govern the management of land within the county.
Tumekuwa na sheria za kuangazia masuala ya ardhi, lakini hapa kwetu Kilifi hatujakuwa na sera ambayo inaongoza serikali na washikadau kuweza kushughulikia masuala ya ardhi. Na hivi sasa, kama ilivyoelezwa katika speech hii ya Mheshimiwa Governor, tuko na hiyo sera ambayo sasa inafanyiwa public participation, na inapokamilika na kupitishwa pale bungeni, sisi kama watu wa Kilifi tutakuwa na sera ambayo itakuwa inatuongoza kuweza kutatua changamoto zetu za masuala ya ardhi.
Some of the Malindi leaders attributed this rising habit to drug abuse.
Ukipoteza mmoja katika utumizi wa madawa ya kulevya ni hasara kubwa sana, si kwa mzazi, ni kwa nchi mzima. Kijana yeyote ambaye anaingia katika utumizi wa madawa ya kulevya, hakusoma, hana ajira, anazunguka, anakuwa mhalifu, anaanza kushambulia watu kwa vipanga. Haya yote yanasababishwa na utumizi wa madawa ya kulevya.
However, the residents and community leaders have shown hope that the county security team will make Malindi a safe place again. Elimelek Mudori for KUTV.
Now that story by Elimelech takes us to the second break on the broadcast tonight. We'll be back with sports.
Hi, my name is Stella Tioi. Jina langu naitwa Okemwa Mwokoa James.
This is Mandela Gaya.
Ugonjwa ulipokuja ulichukua siku 3 ukaniweka in coma. 20 wamezikwa, 2 ndio wako hai.
I don't even know how it feels to see.
I feel like I cannot express myself well the way somebody who can walk can actually express themselves. Ilichukua muda mwingi mrefu tena mpana ili kuikubali kwamba mimi siwezi tembea tena. I've come to actually accept myself. Ukijaribu kumsimamisha mtu mwambie tafadhali nionyeshe njia.
They find it quite strange talking to you.
We should just make schools integrated.
Inclusive setups.
By providing the right facilities.
Miti miti, panda panda. Our planet's future is in our hands. However, there is a threat to the brightness of this tomorrow. On EarthCheck, we share the challenges, the solutions, and the hope.
I would call this a very momentous day, a very critical day.
Every episode, every story, every step we take creates a ripple. Join me, the environmentalist Emmanuel Kutosi, on KUTV every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and be part of EarthCheck. Welcome.
Welcome back. In sports tonight, the most anticipated match between Gor Mahia and FC Leopards today ended on a 1-1 draw at Raila Odinga Stadium. Gor Mahia took the lead in the 31st minute when midfielder Austin Odhiambo scored a contender for the goal of the season, but they were not able to protect the lead as a defensive mistake allowed Brian Wanyama to volley home Ingwe's equalizer in the 50th minute for the shared points. Today's results put Gor Mahia second on the table with 55 points, while FC Leopards sit in the 6th position with 47 points. Now that brings us to the end of KUTV News at 9 on this second day of June 2025. Thank you so much for being part of us this day. And just to give a teaser of what will be happening tomorrow, it is Money Monday, and tomorrow we'll be having Biashara Tuesday very early in the morning, and we'll be having a conversation on controversial theories surrounding the gender roles or women at workplaces. What do you know or believe to be a controversial theory about women involvement in the workplace? Is it to broaden the tax base? Is it something that is threatening gender roles and a place where a situation where it will take over the leadership of men in the society? We'll be having that in-depth conversation on that tomorrow on Biashara Tuesday. So make sure you stay tuned for that very early in the morning. That marks the end of our broadcast tonight. I'm Anyango Sylvia. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Margaret Migwi. Have a good night.